without doubts, I think it's by far the best league in the world.
How dare you score like that in the Premier League?
Mission accomplished in the Premier League. The American.
Scouser.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of ASTV's Premier League show. I'm your host, Gally. I am here flying solo tonight, as I'm not sure if Bickler just had too much birthday celebrations or what happened. Maybe he fell off with falling forward and leaping forward with the clock changes this weekend. Who knows what the excuse will be, but either way, we are going to talk about what was a very eventful match week here, match week 28 in the Premier League, and let's get right at it by looking at the fixtures. So we're going to take a quick look here at a few of the key matches and fixtures from the weekend, starting with the first one, the lunchtime kickoff over in the UK. Nottingham Forest 1, Manchester City 0. So City just keeps hitting what I believe the 15 or 20 supporters across the country. I'm just kidding, City fans. City supporters have to believe that every time they watch this side, it feels like a new low. 9 losses. And I think if you have to take that into account and realize Manchester City hasn't lost 9 matches combined over the last 3 campaigns, and they have 9 losses in 27 or 28 matches played. So with 10 matches to go, they are on pace for the lowest amount of points as they've had in any season since Pep Guardiola is taking over. They've had a lot of issues with the overall stance and how they've gone about turning over their squad. They've purchased quite a few players in January, but they haven't really bedded in very well. As good as Mamouche looks, I'm not sure that he shows that he actually makes Holland any better and that he fits. They still haven't replaced Julian Alvarez. They've never really solved the conundrum, which is, can Phil Foden play in a side with Kevin De Bruyne? And I think the jury's still out when it comes to that. And more than anything, they clearly were way too lopsided. But I think making the comment that it's all down to Rodri's injury is in some ways letting Pep off the hook, because I'm sorry, if you are the biggest and the best side in the world, as they've tried to make themselves out to be over the last few years, I don't think you can be so dependent on one player that if you lose a Spanish defensive midfielder, the whole entire thing falls apart. And it feels to me like they had the pieces in that squad that should have been able to offset it. So I question, and we'll talk a little bit about this in a little bit further along in the program. I wonder if there isn't more at play here, where it's really down to Pep, what's happening in his professional life, his personal life, and how those things are intertwining to maybe aid in what has been a rapid decline for Manchester City. As a Liverpool supporter who has lost multiple trophies by a point or two to a side that may or may not have cheated 115 times, not bitter at all. I struggle to have sympathy with the professional side of things. But as someone who has had their personal life impact their professional life in the past, I do know that the man is human. So if these things are factoring into it, I can kind of understand, and we'll touch upon that a little bit further into the program. Let's look back at a couple of the other fixtures and get some takes on those. Obviously, another big match of the weekend, highly entertaining, was Tottenham-Bournemouth. Bournemouth go 2-0 up, had more chances early in that match. Spurs tried to gift them multiple goals early before Tavernier and Evan Nielsen scored their goals, only to be undone by a pair of Kepa errors. And it's funny, we talk about Chelsea every once in a while on this program. We try not to talk about Chelsea, but they obviously come up in conversation. And oftentimes we talk about their inability and their weakness in between the sticks. The scariest part is the weakest goaltender on the Chelsea books is probably the ones playing at Bournemouth, because both of those goals, in my opinion, are absolutely down to goalkeeper errors. If I'm Bournemouth right now, if I'm a Bournemouth supporter, I am just sickened by the idea that we could be a point out of fifth place right now, and instead we sit 3 points adrift because we gave away a 2-goal lead when we had a clear opportunity to beat a Spurs team that, though they are in the bottom half of the table, it still would have been deemed as a good 3 points collected on the road for Bournemouth in their fight for a top 5 place and hopefully qualifications into the Champions League, which is crazy when you have a ground that only holds 11 or 12,000 supporters that you might be playing in the Champions League next year. But it's moments like Sunday morning here in the United States that make you question whether Bournemouth has it in them to do it. I know Paul at times has mentioned that he doesn't have as much confidence as I have in the Bournemouth side. We're going to look at the table in a little bit, but that was just a huge 2 points dropped. And, the first goal, Kepa's off his line. He gets beat by a cross. Even where he was off his line, I still feel like he should get his feet right and be able to tip that ball over the top of the bar. It, lobs him from across from a midfielder who I don't think had any eyes on the goal, but it just happened to go in. You take them, you don't give them back. The penalty award is absolutely a joke. Now, I will say this. I think Son for Tottenham Hotspur might be the luckiest player in all the Premier League. And it has nothing to do with him not having talent, him getting all the calls. I think there is something about his big smile, his personality on the pitch that makes everyone love him. And I think there is a little bit of a pantomime villain inside of him. Because I think if you super slow-mo that moment down as Kepa goes, I think Son drags his foot in and is already going down before there's any contact. He makes sure it looks like a penalty, and he makes sure he sells it as a penalty. And as an attacking player, I'm all here for it. Because ultimately, if the keeper comes out and makes that type of a move and that type of a mistake, it is up to the referee to make the call on the field. You have the VAR for an opportunity to correct said call. And if you believe you can earn that penalty for your side, you probably owe it to both your teammates, your coaches, the club, and all the supporters in the grounds to do every single thing you can to score. Part of that sometimes is going down in the box. And I think in this case, Son goes down a little easy in the box, but then steps up, dispatches of his penalty. They draw a level 2-2. They don't go ahead and find the go-ahead goal. Neither side does. Bournemouth had a couple chances late in that match, thought they might pull it out. But I feel like in this case, felt a lot more like 1 point gain for Tottenham and 2 points dropped for the Bournemouth Cherries. And I think come the end of the season, they may see those 2 points as a massive swing in their top 4/top 5 homes. Another match that had huge implications on the race for the top European spots was Brighton Fulham. Brighton with another win. I believe it's 6 on the bounce in the Premier League. A late 90 plus 8-minute penalty awarded, scored by João Pedro. Brighton go on and beat Fulham 2-1 after trailing 1-0 earlier in the match. And, Brighton's one of these weird sides. Just when you start to write them on as a team that can go far and make big inroads, they trip up and lay themselves a big egg. I never in a million years would say this, but in some ways, I genuinely believe the 7-0 thrashing by Forest might have been the best thing for Brighton. because in a lot of ways, I think it righted their ship to pull them together and make them realize what they were fighting for. And that is a step forward and a chance to do something really special by playing in European football, let alone a chance to potentially be in the Champions League. There's part of me that wonders if Brighton wouldn't be better suited to get themselves into the Europa League and maybe have a right go at it. They do have a pretty deep squad for one of the middle tier table teams in the Premier League, but I'm not sure they're ready for the rigors of Champions League football. Similar with Forest, and we'll look at the table here in a few minutes. But I do believe that that would be something that might be one step too far. But let's not kid ourselves. Nobody is going to scoff themselves at 80 million pounds or $80 million, which is what you get for entry into the group stages or the League Cup stage of the Champions League at this point. And if I'll say this as a Premier League supporter and a fan of a Premier League team, none of the other 19 teams want Brighton to be given an $80 million war chest. Because in my opinion, Brighton has proven that they spend their funds better than anybody in England when it comes to buying, recruiting, and selling players on for a profit. And the injection of 80 million into that club's coffers might really change and swing a little bit of the balance of powers. So I guess for the neutral, maybe that's exactly what we're looking for. Speaking of powers in the league and maybe a former power, Man United Arsenal will always be a big match. No matter what, it is a big match on the weekend. It wasn't as big a match this weekend due to some of United's recent struggles, the idea that United may rotate their side, and of course, Arsenal's lack of a striker and or firepower up top. So a 1-1 draw in this situation didn't really surprise me. If anything, it actually made me look at this match and realize how deficient both sides are, but also how competitive this league is. Because in a match where, this was second versus 15 or 14 in the league, and it really never felt like it was that far apart, even though Arsenal, I felt like, had the better of the run of it. And I understand the Arsenal fans will once again blame the officials. They'll talk about the handball against the young United defender. I can see it both ways. I feel at this point like the handball law has just gotten so convoluted that I don't know what is or isn't a handball anymore. So there's part of me that feels for the Arsenal supporters. The fact that all Arsenal supporters have done is complain, whine, and cry and blame everyone but their own management and administrative teams and owners for not buying the striker in the summer or January that they need it. I can't take it seriously. I have to be honest. So, though that I feel a 1-1 result probably favored Manchester United on the run of play, you'd be hard pressed to think to yourself watching that match, and especially watching stoppage time, when that ball falls to Bruno Fernandez's feet, that Arsenal aren't lucky that they escaped with a point from this match overall. I think Arsenal is the much better side. I think Arsenal is much further along in their project. I do think that Manchester United was trying to also hold back a little energy for what is the biggest match of the season come Thursday when they play Real Sociedad at Old Trafford in the second leg of their Europa League knockout phase, tied at 1. And I think we all understand Manchester United's only chance at European football next year is to win the Europa League, which means they need to find a way to turn that tie over on Thursday. So I think in a lot of ways, Arsenal got lucky because they were able to pull through the way that they did. And the fact that I think United was rotating and in some mindset even put in a little less than 100% effort, trying to save a little bit of their legs for Thursday night, knowing it is the more important of the matchups. So I alluded to this earlier when it comes to Pep Guardiola. And I asked the question, has Pep lost it, or is he just done with City? And I say this because it doesn't appear to me that the man has the same drive, the same attention to detail, or even the same maniacal passion that we've seen in the past. And I don't want to go too deep into this conversation because it's not fair to speculate, but it has been reported that he has acknowledged, he and his longtime wife slash partner, Christina Sarah, that they are in the midst of splitting up. And they have been together for 30 years. They have 3 children together. As someone who can raise his hand and say he's been through a divorce in his lifetime and how much it impacted every single output and decision that I made, I find it hard to believe that some of what is happening right now doesn't have something to do with the changes to his personal life. And for that, I will say, I do feel sorry for him. I feel sorry for the fact that that type of thing gets pulled into conversations like this. I also can understand why maybe the passion and the drive that push them forward isn't still there. I know that anytime you bring personal into professional and you work as many hours in such a high energy and volatile business as professional sports is, I have to imagine that this makes huge, huge impact. And it makes me wonder if earlier this year, when Pep Guardiola signed that new extension, which was just a 1-year bumper, if that wasn't more to create stability for what's happening right now and tried to write this season together. Because it feels to me like the writing is on the wall, that Pep knows his time at City is up and that he'll be leaving at the end of the season. I don't think he wanted a Jurgen Klopp-like end of the season campaign that might go the way Klopp's did. Because I think deep down Pep knew this was coming, that the team was getting older, that they had maybe missed a window or two in their purchasing. They weren't going to compete at the high honors that they wanted to compete for. And I don't know if that, coupled with everything that was happening in his personal life, that he had the answers required to make the big, tough decisions and make changes. And I don't think he wanted to go out with a bunch of speculation. So in his mind, the best way to offer some stability to his players, to the club, was to sign a 1-year bumper contract extension. Pep Guardiola, to me, looks like a man who is absolutely dead on his feet. He looks tired. He looks like he's coached through multiple cycles without an off season, with no break. You couple that with the personal strife that comes with a massive family upheaval, and I think you start to make rash decisions. And come the end of this season, I could see him saying, I just need a nice little break. Give me a few weeks. I'll get recharged and maybe I can come back. The issue is Manchester City has no choice but to play in the Club World Cup, which means they don't have an offseason. They start playing in a club competition weeks after the season ends. And I just can't see Pep Guardiola finishing this campaign, potentially falling out of the top 5, winning 1-0 silverware, and that's if they salvage the FA Cup, and then going off to the Club World Cup, buying a bunch of new players, retooling it all, and somehow getting this ship back on the tracks. So I guess my question to you, and you can leave it in the comments, at the end of the day, do you think this will be Manchester City's decision to help Pep move on from his 1-year bumper contract, hire themselves an up-and-coming manager, whether it's Xabi Alonso from Leverkusen, or it's an Iriola down at Bournemouth, or maybe it's a name that we haven't even had dropped out on us yet, right? Maybe they'll just be wishing they had gotten Amorim before he went to United. We'll see what that decision might be. Or do you think Pep Guardiola says to himself, I'm good, that's it, good night, the lights? Because I personally feel like there is a better chance that the City hierarchy moves on from Pep or Pep moves on from them than he is back next season. I'd honestly put it at under 20%. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Please drop it in the comments below. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at the Premier League table as of this moment after 28 match weeks, 29 games played for both Aston Villa and Liverpool. Liverpool are clear in front, do have a game in hand, but they are 15 points clear. That puts their magic win total needing 5 more victories to secure their 20th top flight first place crown. Arsenal, with a draw against United, sits at 55 points. Forest's huge win solidifies them, in my opinion, as a real strong favorite to finish inside that top 3. Every time I write them off, which has basically been since week 8, they have responded with a great result. I don't think you can question them anymore. The fact that they have conceded, the second or third least amount of goals in the entire Premier League behind Liverpool and Arsenal is very impressive. They're getting their goals when needed. They're grinding out results. Chelsea with a win. City with the loss. Newcastle did get a victory today. Big win for them. Much needed. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with that one. Can they build on that win? How will they take that into the League Cup final? And Brighton winning 4 in a row on the bounce, really making big moves, just hanging on, staying within touching distance of that 5th place position, which we believe will be enough to get you into the Champions League. Villa, Bournemouth, and Fulham round out your top 10. I think at this point, Villa, Bournemouth, Fulham, they might be fighting to get themselves into the conference level spots. Not sure they still have the wherewithal to get into the Champions League spots. I joked about this a while ago. We are not even going to talk anymore about the bottom 3. Every time I hope a result might happen for a club like Ipswich or Leicester, this week they both had opportunities to win matches. Neither of them could secure 3 points. They would have been that much closer to Wolves, who, with the Cunha suspension, slightly opened the door for a team to be able to stay up. But I just have zero faith in Ipswich, Leicester, or Southampton staying up. And to be honest, we're not going to spend too much more time on this program going forward the rest of the way, looking at the bottom of the table, because I don't really believe any of these 10 teams have a chance to get out of the bottom half. I think they will all finish in the bottom half of the table in some order between 11 and 17. 18 to 20 people, they're probably going to finish in that exact order because that's basically been par for the course. I mean, look at those goals conceded. 68, 62, 58, 57. It's embarrassing that Wolves have conceded 57 goals and are still somehow 6 points clear of safety at this point. It just shows the gulf difference between the top of the Premier League and the bottom. I believe this is one of the most competitive Premier League seasons we've ever seen. I think any team can genuinely win each and every single week. That being said, I am not confident that we will see a team get promoted and stay up anytime soon, because the gulf of class between the Championship and the top division in the Premier League at this point is larger than it's ever been before. And the problem is I think you can play a style of football to get out of the Championship that often does not bode well when you get to the Premier League. There's also a world where you get to the Premier League and you feel like you have to go buy the players that can compete at this level, and you lose all the camaraderie and the cohesiveness inside your side that helped you earn promotion. And I think there is that even balance there. So it'll be interesting to see what Leeds do, whether it's Burnley or Sheffield United when they come up this season. These are sides we have seen in the Premier League before, and I am not personally confident that any of them will be able to stay up. But then again, there's always the chance of the fact that Wolves can run the club as poorly as they've run it for the last 4 or 5 years. And that might just give you a shot if you're a Leeds and you have that high-end payroll. Let's take a look at the fixtures that are coming up in the next match week, coming up starting this weekend. Interesting weekend. Once again, we have the clock differences here in the U.S. due to us kind of springing forward already and them not resetting the clocks yet in England. So we have some later kickoffs on Saturday. There is no lunchtime game, so 11 a.m. first matches Eastern time. You'll see Everton versus West Ham, Ipswich versus Forest, Southampton Wolves, and maybe the match of the entire weekend, in my opinion, Man City Brighton. Brighton traveled to Man City. I think this is primed to be a great match for a few different reasons. One being the fact that they are battling for that 5th place position. 2, I think Brighton is the exact type of footballing side that Manchester City looks to play against, but often struggles with, because Brighton can hit you on the counter and beat you if they're sitting back and you peg them in. They can also get on the front foot and play football with any side in the country. They're confident, their tails are up, and they're getting healthy. And they have goal scorers. They have people like Minta, they have Matoma, they have Pedro, they have Welbeck. They're finding ways to score goals, and they're finding ways to defend their goal. I think that this has upset written all over it. And I will go as far as to say, if Brighton can go to Manchester City and secure 3 points, Manchester City is going to be in a dogfight to get into the top 5 by the end of the season. Because I do believe that Chelsea is going to drag out enough results to finish in the top 5. I know this week they go to Arsenal. That's not going to be an easy match, but it's always tough when these London derbies occur. And then you chalk up the fact that Arsenal is really struggling with scoring goals at the moment. And Chelsea is finding a way, even though they're not playing well. I also expect Cole Palmer to get back on track at some point. Fulham and Tottenham, another London derby that could be interesting. Fulham is a very Jekyll and Hyde side. You never know what you're going to get from them. And then lastly, obviously, Leicester City, Manchester United. I do feel like at some point, if Leicester City is going to have a chance to stay up, they're going to have to win matches against teams you can compete with. And as odd as it is, getting a Manchester United side at home 48 to 72 hours after they've had to play the most important match of their season that could have potentially gone 120 minutes. If there's ever a time to take a scalp and pick off some points, it might be this weekend for Leicester City. I'll say this on the weekend that is. You see that we have a few less fixtures here. We're missing the Liverpool, Newcastle, Crystal Palace, and Aston Villa, because those matches were all either rescheduled. In the case of Villa and Liverpool, it's already been played. In the case of Newcastle and Crystal Palace, that match will be played, I believe, in game week 32 as a rescheduled match. And that's due to the League Cup final that will occur on Sunday between Liverpool and Newcastle. I'm not going to try to hide my allegiances as I wear them on my chest literally, and they're on my screen behind me. Liverpool versus Newcastle will be an interesting match at Wembley. I do believe that Liverpool will find a way to come out of that League Cup. I think they will secure the trophy. I think their experience, I think the attacking prowess that they have, I think missing Anthony Gordon and Sven Botman is a very, very important key component. I think missing Lewis Hall is also key to this. Isak played today, but he didn't look himself, so maybe he's not 100% fit. But if Newcastle has a shot, they will have that shot because of the play of their midfield. And I truly believe that Liverpool is going to have to figure out a way to neutralize that midfield, specifically when Joe Linton starts to really make those powerful runs and gets on the ball. If they can neutralize Joe Linton, Tonali, and to a lesser extent Bruno Guimaraes, I do believe that Liverpool will have enough firepower to get across the line and see it out against Newcastle. What I will say to you, Gordy fans, is this. You deserve a trophy, and that trophy is coming. Unfortunately for you, it's not coming on Sunday. All right, for everyone here at American Scouser TV, thank you for watching. Thank you for viewing. Get on over to the page if you haven't already. Do all the things. Like it, subscribe to the page, leave us a comment, give us a review. Let us know where we can improve. Don't forget to tune in to the Monday Night Podcast, all the different shows. Follow us on the socials. Get at us with the next video. Until then, I'm Gally, and we will talk to you soon.